My visual impairment I've had since birth, so it's just something that I'm kind of used to, really. So I am registered blind because I am totally blind in my left eye and partially sighted or half blind in my right eye, which means that medically I am actually blind.
I was born with a multiple complex problems, should I say the least. So my vision has been reduced due to neural damage, which is now known as CVI, and it's a cognitive visual impairment. So my condition is known as homonymous hymenopsia.
My name is Ross and I am a freelance writer and filmmaker. But I do stuff for like the BBC Social. I've written quite a lot of like articles for online magazines, online film websites, and I'm at the moment trying to break into my own spoken word stuff. I've got an EP coming out of spoken word pieces, and I'm also a musician, I guess, kind of. I write my own songs and I play guitar and stuff like that, so I'm trying to get into that a little bit.
My name's Stephen. I am a young visually impaired person, and I'm a political advocate for young disabled and more specifically visually impaired people in Scotland. For the last couple of years I've been known as a MSYP, which is a member of the Scottish Youth Parliament, and also as a young leader within the UK and also the US through my time working in America with disabled people and actually a more wider spectrum of demographics. So I do a lot of political advocacy and just continuously raise awareness through Parliament, through charitable organisations, continuously trying to make society a better place for disabled people, safer for disabled people, and raise a better understanding of what disability is actually like on an everyday basis, rather than what people feel or think it is like. So give people a more realistic point of view from someone who experiences disability on an everyday basis.
So what I can see is quite tricky to describe, but I'll try my best. So when I look at something initially, it can be quite blurry, and so if I look at something, it's got sort of like distorted. So, but the longer that I look at something, or the longer that I look at someone, the clearer they get, and they'll never be fully clear, obviously, because I can't see, but they'll be clear enough for me to maybe, I can tell you like the shape of their face, or what colour their hair is, things like that. So, finer details I can't tell at all.
How do I describe it? I can see images of blurredness, colour, but without detail. So everything is just a collection of colours and very distorted images. I have about 45-degree peripheral sight loss as well, so it's almost like tunnel vision. And so for me, not being able to see details is the most challenging aspect of that.
Yeah, so my experiences being visually impaired have been up and down. I was brought up in a pretty mainstream environment, which was good and bad because it meant that I was in classes with people that were sort of not very understanding and sort of maybe not go as far as bullying, but like would tease me quite a lot, and 'cause they didn't understand. They were kids, get it. But it kind of also impacted my social life as well, because I would sometimes have like someone with me in class to kind of help me with notes and stuff, and it meant that people would kind of stay away from me a little bit. So I think that But then as I got older and I kind of cared less about what people think, I kind of started being a lot more comfortable with it, and I went through a big period of my life where I didn't really didn't really want to ask for help, and sort of denied, oh, I don't want large print because that's not normal, and things like that. But then again, as I kind of gained a bit more confidence and kind of found drama and found acting and found film, I kind of came into my own person a little bit more, and kind of realised that, you know what, it's quite cool to kind of stand out and be like, yeah, I use large print, and so that's sort of my experience.
From an employment perspective, it again is challenging even to this day. We have 75% of partially sighted people unemployed, and we have a further 90% of people who are completely blind unemployed. And those statistics are shocking to say the least. So for me, I feel that there are challenges that we could be tackling more, and that's the reason why I've got myself into the government, so that I can continue to be a voice for those who have disabilities and continue to help promote a better society in terms of employment and education, and indeed out in the wider streets of society as well.
Audio and hearing is really valuable to me for knowing where I am and knowing, the basics of even like knowing when to cross the road or things like that. And I think that when you can see, and I'm, not saying that this is like a bad thing, but I think that when you can see it, or when you have use of all your senses, you kind of take certain things for granted a little bit, and kind of like, you can have your headphones in at traffic lights because you can see when it goes green, stuff like that. But I rely on noises, like the noise of traffic lights. So like things like the fact that not all of them have that noise. I'm kind of like relying on someone else to cross the road, and hopefully they don't kill me when they walk across. And and that's a shame, 'cause I love music so much, and I would love to be like walking down the street with earphones in, but I need to be aware of everything that's around me. So it's quite, sound is really, really important.
Hearing is definitely important. I recently lost a lot of my hearing due to having quite badly clogged up ears with wax, and it was an experience that I feel was really difficult, because when you don't have as much eyesight, you try to use your other senses as best as you can. It's not the case that hearing instantly becomes heightened when you lose sight. It's more a case of you are aware that you've lost the major sense, such as sight, and so you try and use the second best one that you have available, which is your hearing. So to have gone through a period of time not having that much hearing, it made everyday life that more challenging. I try and rely on my hearing quite often when I'm out and around in the streets, to hear traffic, to hear people, to try and judge the distance that people might be around me. And having gone through an experience with losing my hearing, I feel that was quite tricky. So it's something that I certainly value a lot. It's something that I rely on a lot, and I am thankful that I have my hearing back to the way I had it prior to losing it only a few weeks ago.
I don't think that deafblind or disabled people in general are represented at all, and I think that the general lack of awareness of disability in general. So it's not just from an access standpoint; it's from a not understanding a disability, or knowing that knowing sort of if someone is disabled. There's something called a hidden disability, where someone could be on the surface perfectly fine, but they could have a hidden disability. That's right, An experience that I had of lack of awareness was a few times actually when I've been out with friends in the city centre, and bouncers have questioned me about my authenticity of my disability and saying that, oh, you don't have a white stick or you don't have a dog, how can you be visually impaired? And it's like, because visually impaired people can walk around without dogs and sticks. And it's sort of like, you know, I've been kind of questioned in pubs and cornered at one point when I was in a pub and I had my crutch to one side. But I also have mobility issues, as well as not being able to see. And I put my crutch to one side, and the toilet was literally a few steps away. And I got up, and as I was coming out, someone called me and was like, "Oh, you must be faking! Like, how can you come in here with a crutch and then walk around without it?" And it was just sort of like the lack of awareness of people is quite terrifying, especially when to a kind of general public, it's like, oh, we've come on so far with accessibility, and it's like, you've really not. So, I think that, you know, there needs to be a lot more awareness within education and in business about disability and access, and, you know, even from the standpoint of myself, who I am, even though I do a lot of media work, I am unemployed and I don't have a steady income, and that's mainly because the minute I apply for a job, I might get to an interview stage, but then the employers immediately put off because of my disability, and they don't understand, you know, they don't think to ask me what can you do. Instead, they think, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, and it's you know, it's a lack of understanding. And I think that you know, establishments, whether it's a business or whether it's a school or a college, they need to put more time into teaching people about access and about disability, and how, you know, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I'm a person, I'm not a disability, and I think that's something that people need to kind of start realising. Yeah, I think faking a disability is, in my opinion, up there with, like, I don't know, like, I've got to live with a disability, and like I said, I can't change it. I can't wake up tomorrow and decide I don't want a disability anymore. So faking a disability, you're kind of like, you're not only, you know, lying to people around you, but you're also making people's lives, people with hidden disabilities, like I said, their lives harder, because if people fake disabilities, then how are people who authentically have disabilities going to be taken seriously? So I think, you know, it's something that I don't condone at all. So yeah. Exactly. I think that, like, again, that's probably coming from, please Netflix don't come for me when I say this, but this is probably coming from a very narrow-minded perspective of people that are probably, and again, I don't know their lives, but I'm assuming that that they're maybe not around disability, or they're maybe, you know, they only know what society tells them about someone who's blind, things like that, so they think that it's all right because they maybe don't have any immediate contact with someone with that disability, that they think, oh, it'll be fine, you know, and they think, oh, maybe it'll, you know, I don't know, you know, it's one of those things where I think that it's...
In the modern day, there are so many challenges that we face to enable disabled people to fit into society better. So just one example, when you go into a restaurant and you look at a menu, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be in small print, and they won't have any other format. That, to me, is a disgrace. It should not be the case, and in fact, it actually breaches the rules of the Equality Act of 2010. And so, for me, I feel that society has a long way to go to help people who are visually impaired, deaf-blind, autistic, and any other disability across the board. We have so much challenges, it is frightening when you realise the scale in which we have, or the mountain that we have to climb to make this disabled access better within our communities. I feel that we should not be having advertising boards out in the streets I feel that they're a danger to people with visual impairments. They have caused a no end of problems to those who have white canes or long canes, because those quite often can be easily broken when they get caught underneath an A-board. And if you're visually impaired, you don't realise that A-board is there, and if it breaks the cane, then you're in a bit of a difficult position. I feel transport in Scotland has a long way to go to make accessible features within the transport, particularly buses, where we can have better audio systems on the buses. There are many buses in Glasgow that don't even have any audio systems on it at present, so we should be doing more to encourage that and to push that. I was in a meeting within the Scottish Parliament only yesterday about the Scottish transport. However, we didn't quite get to the accessibility point, but my aim within my role within the Scottish Government and advocating would be to ensure that the government are aware of these problems and continuously tackle them head on.
Do you know, I think that there's a difference between experiencing something for a moment, rather than actually experience it for real in real life, because, you know, something that I should have mentioned is that my eyesight means that I can't watch 3D films. Well, I can watch them, but they don't have any effect on me whatsoever. So something like jumps out, I can't see it, and that's the same with VR stuff. But yeah, I think that with this, I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea on the sort of, like, on paper, I guess, but to do it, like, I can tell that a lot of people will be like, oh, you know, it's fun, you know, like, pretending to be blind for, like, you know, half an hour, like, but people actually live with it, and they can't just take this off and be like, oh, I can see again. So I think that there's some kind of, it is great to give people experience of it, but you need to keep in mind that people live like this, so it's not something that should be done lightly or done in a sort of, you know, amusement way. It's, you know, it should be dealt with in a very serious way and under serious circumstances. So if it's like, say for example, doctors training in to become, I don't know what the technical name is, eye doctors, I guess, then yeah, you know, by all means, that would be great to show them what it's like, but in a kind of general public way, I can see how it could be kind of misused and sort of, you know, kind of seen as a kind of like entertainment form, like, oh, I can't see, and then, oh, I can. So I think that you need to really be very, very careful with something like that, especially when, but I am very happy to talk about my visual impairment and my disabilities in general, but there are people who would probably be quite upset to know that there's something like that kind of being developed, because it's like, you know, I need to live like that and I can't change it, whereas, yeah, so, yeah, it's like that's someone's life, you know, that's someone's life, and you know, like, and they don't know the anxiety and mental health side of it either, you know. So that anxiety that someone might feel for that 15 minutes experience, imagine that every day, all day, for your whole life, and knowing that you can't change it, you can't just take the headset off and you're fine, you know, so.
RNIB do a lot of raising awareness through what we have as sim specs, which are glasses that will simulate different eye conditions. However, the problem being is that the person who tries those sim specs only uses the sim specs for a few minutes, and they then take them off and their normal eyesight resumes. So it doesn't give you the complete package, if you will, of what it's like to live every day with a sight impairment, because you also have to remember that it's not just the physical side of not being able to see entirely well, or indeed at all, but there's also a really difficult and potentially bigger struggle with dealing with a sight impairment from a mental perspective. And I don't feel that that's an area that's been represented all that well. Yeah, I think that to truly get the feeling of what it's like to live with a visual impairment, you have to be able to use those types of technologies for a sustained period of time again, I'm talking a good few months to maybe even a year. It sounds a long time, but you have to understand that there's a lot of adjustments that you have to do to be able to fit into society on a number of different levels. Even just going to the shop can be tricky for someone with a sight impairment. And it's not always simply down to the fact that they have a sight impairment. There can be anxiety problems, there could be mental health problems because of the sight loss that fit into that as well. There are huge, huge challenges, and the list is endless. So there has to be a sustained period of time where someone would be using the SimSpecs to really actually get the complete understanding of how that would properly affect someone on an everyday basis.
Concessions that could be made or get, I guess. Or...
Well, see, I don't know if you're actually filming this, but in all honesty, the absolute fundamental basis of this would be education. I mean, you can't underestimate just how valuable the education sector is in terms of actually understanding a disability from an able-bodied perspective. It's by far the biggest problem, because a visually impaired person will be able to adapt to a certain degree with their visual impairment. There is lots of help out in the world now through charities such as RNIB to allow for adaptations within the home. There are organisations like Access to Work who will have adaptations within the workplace. These are actually very easily resolved, but the biggest problem is indeed the lack of understanding of what disability is actually like on an everyday basis. So for me, that would be the fundamental basis of changing society. Make society more aware. Be more mindful of what sight loss is actually like. And that's not just related to sight loss, that's related to just disability in general. As I say, whether it be autism, whether it be deaf-blind, whether it be someone who's deaf, whether it be a severe learning disability, dyslexia, whatever the disability is, it's simply down to the lack of education. So they are very good, but there is a long road in terms of making our society more accessible, from education, from employment, from making our streets safe. The list is endless. It would go on all day, so there is so much more that can be done, but the good thing is that the Parliament is aware, receptive, and actually trying to tackle some of the issues that we have in everyday life.